What if I told you that you're being hypnotized dozens of times daily without realizing it? From news headlines designed to bypass critical thinking, to sales techniques that create instant desire, conversational hypnosis shapes your decisions, beliefs, and even your identity. The most powerful influencers in your life, whether it be media, business leaders, or even family, are using specific language patterns that directly access your subconscious mind. Most aren't even aware they're doing it. Those who are aware often use these patterns without ethical boundaries. In this video, you'll learn 5 conversational hypnosis patterns that ethically influence others by speaking directly to their subconscious mind. These aren't manipulation tactics. They're communication tools that create deeper connection, bypass resistance, and help others access their own resources for positive change. By the end, I'll reveal the most powerful ethical influence principle that transforms not just how others respond to you, but how you experience your own communication. This insight alone has helped my clients become more influential in their professional and personal lives while maintaining complete integrity. Let's jump right in to understand how conversational hypnosis actually works and why traditional communication approaches often fail to create meaningful change. As a therapist and hypnotherapist, I've seen countless clients struggle with influence, whether it's parents unable to connect with their teens, professionals whose ideas get overlooked, or individuals whose boundaries keep getting violated because they can't communicate effectively. The fundamental problem is that most communication targets the conscious mind, the analytical, critical part that makes up only 5% of our mental processing. This creates 3 major limitations. First, conscious to conscious communication triggers resistance. When someone feels they're being persuaded, their critical faculty activates, analyzing and often rejecting what you're saying regardless of its merit. Second, traditional communication ignores state. As we covered in a previous video, someone's state, their emotional, physiological, and neurological condition, determines what they're receptive to. Trying to influence someone in an unreceptive state is like trying to plant seeds in concrete. Third, most people communicate their intentions rather than creating experiences. They explain what they want others to understand instead of crafting language that allows others to experience the understanding directly. Know this: the subconscious mind, which makes up 95% of mental processing, doesn't analyze or reject. It responds to imagery, emotion, and indirect suggestion. It's where lasting change actually occurs. When you learn to speak to this part of the mind, you bypass resistance and connect with the part of the person that can actually implement change. This isn't about manipulating others. It's about communicating more effectively with how the mind actually works rather than how we think it should work. Ethical conversational hypnosis creates a bridge between minds that allows for genuine influence without manipulation. To understand conversational hypnosis, we need to explore 3 fundamental principles about how the mind processes language and influence. First, the dual processing principle. Your mind processes information through 2 distinct systems: the conscious analytical mind and the subconscious pattern recognition mind. The conscious mind is linear, logical, and limited in capacity, analyzing, judging, and often rejecting information. The subconscious mind is associative, emotional, and vast. It absorbs, connects, and implements. Traditional communication targets the conscious mind with logic and direct statements. Conversational hypnosis engages the subconscious mind with patterns, stories, and indirect suggestions that bypass critical analysis. Your analytical mind might find this concept interesting, while the other part of you is already connecting it to conversations where you felt unusually persuaded or influenced without exactly knowing why. Second, the state-dependent principle. Information is processed differently depending on the state of the receiver. In a critical analytical state, even the most compelling message could be rejected. In an open receptive state, even subtle suggestions can have profound influence. Conversational hypnosis begins by pacing or matching and validating someone's current state before then leading them to a more receptive state where influence can occur naturally. Third, the quantum language principle. In quantum physics, observation affects reality. In communication, language doesn't just describe reality, it shapes it. The patterns, metaphors, and presuppositions in your language literally help collapse quantum possibilities into specific experiences for both you and your listeners. This means the way you frame a conversation doesn't just communicate your perspective. It actually helps create the reality you and others experience. This is why skilled hypnotic communicators are so careful with their language patterns, and also why controlling the frame in conversations is absolutely critical to control the state of those listening. This is even more crucial in arguments. Traditional communication often fails to change the hearts and minds of people because it treats language as a tool for transferring information rather than a quantum field that shapes reality. It focuses on content rather than the state in which that content is received, and it targets the conscious mind while ignoring the subconscious, where lasting change actually occurs. The key insight here is that effective influence isn't about pushing harder against resistance. It's about communicating in ways that naturally bypass resistance by engaging the subconscious mind directly. Now let's explore 5 conversational hypnosis patterns that ethically influence others by speaking directly to their subconscious. These patterns work by bypassing critical analysis and creating experiences rather than just conveying information. Pattern 1, embedded commands. Embedded commands are suggestions hidden within larger sentences that speak directly to the subconscious. They're typically action-oriented phrases that, when slightly emphasized, become direct instructions to your subconscious mind. Here's how to use them. First, identify what you want the other person to experience or do. Then, embed that command within a larger sentence using phrases such as, I wonder if you can blank, or I'm not sure if you'll blank. For example, instead of using consider this perspective, you might say, I'm not sure if you'll consider this perspective now or later. The embedded command speaks directly to the subconscious mind, while the larger sentence engages the conscious mind. You can mark these commands with subtle shifts in your voice, slightly deeper tone, brief pause before and after, or a gentle gesture. These markers flag the command for the subconscious mind while remaining below conscious awareness. Ethical application is crucial here. Only embed commands that benefit the other person or create mutual benefit. For example, a therapist might say, I'm curious whether you'll notice positive changes beginning this week or next week, embedding the helpful suggestion to notice improvements. I've seen remarkable results when clients use this pattern appropriately. One manager struggled with team engagement, started using embedded commands like, feel excited about this project, and share your ideas freely in a lot of his communications. Within weeks, his team's participation and enthusiasm was definitely noticed. Pattern 2, presuppositions. Presuppositions are assumptions embedded within language that must be accepted for the sentence to make sense. They're powerful because the conscious mind focuses on the content of the communication while unconsciously accepting the embedded assumptions. To use presuppositions, identify what you want the other person to accept as given, then structure your language to presuppose it's already true. For example, instead of asking, do you want to improve this relationship? Which allows for a no, you might ask, how would you like to improve this relationship? This presupposes improvement will happen. The only question is how. Common presupposition structures include time-based, such as, before we finish this project, presupposing that you'll finish. Awareness. Have you noticed how much progress you've made? Presupposing progress. Ordinal. What's the first benefit you recognized? Presupposing benefits exist. The ethical application of presupposition involves using them to empower rather than limit. Presuppose positive capabilities, choices, and outcomes rather than limitations or obligations. I worked with a parent who transformed communication with their teenager by shifting from, will you clean your room, to, would you prefer to clean your room before or after dinner? That statement presupposes cleaning will happen while still offering a choice about when. Pattern 3, conscious, unconscious splits. This works really great for self-talk as well as those who like to follow the law of assumption. This powerful pattern acknowledges the conscious mind while delivering suggestions to the subconscious, creating a division of attention that allows suggestions to bypass critical analysis. This formula is simple. Your conscious mind might insert conscious activity, while your unconscious mind insert desired response. An example? You might be consciously evaluating this idea while unconsciously already recognizing all the ways it could benefit you. This pattern works because it honors the conscious mind's need to analyze while simultaneously delivering suggestions directly to the subconscious. It's particularly effective with analytical people who tend to overthink. The ethical application of splits involves using this pattern to help others access their own internal resources rather than to override their autonomy. For instance, a coach might say, "You may be consciously considering the challenges while unconsciously already connecting with the confidence you'll need to succeed." I found this pattern especially effective in helping clients overcome procrastination by acknowledging their conscious concerns while simultaneously connecting them with unconscious resources. They often find themselves taking action with less resistance. Pattern 4: metaphors and stories. Most classic language pattern that everyone uses. Metaphors and stories bypass critical thinking by engaging the subconscious mind directly through imagery and emotion. While the conscious mind follows the narrative, the subconscious extracts patterns and meanings that can create profound change. To use this pattern, identify the core message or change you want to convey. Then create a metaphor or story that parallels that message without explicitly stating it. For example, rather than directly telling someone to be more flexible in their approach, you might share a story about a rigid tree that breaks in the storm, while flexible reeds bend and survive. The subconscious mind automatically extracts the relevant meaning and applies it to the person's situation without triggering resistance. Ethical application involves creating metaphors that offer new perspectives rather than imposing specific actions. Good metaphors expand possibilities rather than narrowing them. One of my clients, a team leader facing resistance to change, transformed his team's attitude by regularly incorporating metaphors about adaptation and growth in nature. Rather than directly confronting resistance, these stories created new associations with change that gradually shifted the team's perspective. Pattern 5: tag questions. Tag questions are short questions added to the end of statements that bypass critical thinking by prompting agreement. They transform statements into questions that assume agreement, making it easier for the listener to accept the preceding statement. For example, instead of stating "this approach will work well," you might say, "This approach will work well, don't you think?" Or, "This approach will work well, won't it?" The tag question creates a subtle pressure towards agreement, while still maintaining the appearance of giving choice. The subconscious tends to accept the statement, while the conscious mind focuses on responding to the question. Ethical application of this involves using tag questions to reinforce positive, truthful statements rather than to manufacture false agreements. They should open dialogue rather than manipulate. I've seen sales professionals ethically use this pattern by saying things like, "This solution addresses your main concern, doesn't it?" This confirms understanding while creating momentum toward positive outcomes. As you begin practicing conversational hypnosis patterns, you may encounter resistance, both from within yourself and from others. Internal resistance often appears as concerns about manipulation or fears about using these patterns incorrectly. Remember that these are communication tools. Like any tools, their ethics lie in how you use them. The key ethical principle is this: use these patterns to help others access their own resources and make choices aligned with their authentic desires. Never use them to override someone's autonomy or create false needs. When you encounter internal resistance, ask yourself, how would this pattern help this person access their own wisdom and make better choices? When your intention is to serve rather than control, these patterns become tools for connection rather than manipulation. You may notice others responding differently as you incorporate these patterns. Some will become more receptive and engaged. Others might unconsciously sense something has changed and respond with curiosity or even suspicion. This happens because you're communicating in a way that engages different aspects of their mind than they're accustomed to. As you continue practicing with positive intention, this initial response typically evolves into deeper rapport and trust. The most important thing to remember is that conversational hypnosis isn't about gaining power over others. It's about creating more effective bridges between minds. When used ethically, these patterns actually create more authentic connection through bypassing the social masks we typically communicate through. As you begin practicing these patterns, start small Incorporate one pattern at a time in low-stakes conversations until it feels natural. Notice how different people respond to different patterns and adapt your approach accordingly. With consistent practice, these patterns will become integrated into your natural communication style, allowing you to influence more effectively while maintaining your integrity. Before we conclude this exploration of conversational hypnosis, I want to share the most liberating insight about ethical influence, one that transforms not just how others respond to you, but how you experience your own communication. Here's the real sauce. The most powerful form of conversational hypnosis happens not through the words you speak to others, but through the words you habitually speak to yourself. The language patterns you use with internal dialogue are constantly creating hypnotic suggestions that shape your reality. The presuppositions in your self-talk, the metaphors you use to understand your experience, the commands you unconsciously give yourself, all of these create a continuous hypnotic experience that either empowers or limits you. This means the first and most important application of conversational hypnosis is to your relationship with yourself. When you consciously reshape your internal dialogue, you transform your experience from the inside out. As you fully grasp this principle, you realize that ethical influence begins with self-influence. The patterns you practice internally naturally flow into your external communication, creating congruence that others unconsciously recognize and respond well to. This is why the most influential communicators aren't those who've memorized the most techniques, but those who've integrated these patterns into their authentic self-expression. Their influence comes not from what they do to others, but from who they've become through their relationship with themselves. As you apply the patterns we've explored today, remember to practice them in your self-communication. Notice the presuppositions in your internal dialogue. Embed empowering commands in your self-talk. Use conscious-unconscious splits to access your own deeper resources. This internal practice creates the foundation for ethical external influence. When these patterns become your natural way of organizing your own experience, your communication with others becomes hypnotically influential without effort or technique. Your influence isn't limited to the words you speak. It emerges from the field of consciousness you create through your relationship with yourself and extends to everyone you interact with. In the next part of this series, we'll explore more advanced conversational hypnosis patterns and how to combine them for maximum ethical influence. But the patterns we cover today are more than enough to begin transforming your communication if you practice them consistently. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe for more videos on quantum psychology and consciousness transformation. Share with us which pattern you're most excited to practice, or any insights the video sparked for you. Until next time, remember that beyond technique lies a quantum field of influence that begins with how you communicate with yourself and naturally extends to everyone around you.